I want to say hello to those of you in the house, to those of you who are viewing online today. Thank you for the gift of your time. If you haven't had a chance already, if you want to fill out a digital connection card, we would love to hear from each of you. You can reach that on the NorthField app or our website, or by scanning that QR code on the seat in front of you and tell us a little bit more about yourself. There's a place on there for a prayer request, and I want to give a hearty welcome. Greg Underwood is back with us. For those of you, yes. It's been just a little over 2 weeks that he was hit by a car that was going about 55 miles an hour on his motorcycle. And it is amazing to see you. And just, if you will, I just want to pray over him 1 second. Father, I thank you, Father, that Greg is in the house. I thank you for how you work through him. I thank you that, Father, there's not a piece of this building that doesn't have his fingerprints on it. And I ask you to continually ask him for healing, to allow him to be back at work. And thank you that he's here with us today. And I ask it in the name of Jesus. Amen. Hey, thank you, Greg. It's good to see you. That is a miracle. And speaking of accidents, although I don't know if he needed any, but people in our community do, you can give blood today. You can give blood right after this service. If you want to miss this service and go give blood right now, you can do that. They're happening in the Student Center. They've got several openings in there. If you brought your toys today, those are going to be delivered this week to the kids at the schools that we have sponsored. They are over there in the green room. There's a place for you to leave them as well. And just in case no one has told you, you have 12 days to buy that perfect gift for that perfect someone in your life, and then the season is a return season at that point. So, hey, let me ask you a question. How many of you like going to a real live store with real live people and employees and other shoppers? Oh, there's my yellow people. I'm in love with you out there. And let me ask you this. How many of you like to sit in your PJs with your laptop in your bed and order your stuff? Oh, y'all need help. Y'all need help. My wife is one of them right up here front. She is waving in both hands there. Let me ask another question. How many of you have done all your shopping? You know, that is more than what I thought. Or this last question. How many of you are going to join me at a store of your choice on December the 23rd doing some of your shopping? Hey, that's my people. That's my peeps out there. Well, you know, when I think of Christmas, I think my mind immediately thinks of giving gifts. And I think that's true of most people at this season of the year, whether they classify themselves as a church person or not a church person. And I think it's because my mind always goes back to that greatest gift that's ever been given. We quote it a lot around here, but John said it best when he said, "For God so loved the world that he did," this is my added part in here, he did what people who are in love do. He gave. He gave. Because isn't it true that you give to the things that you're in love with? Well, today, I'm going to tell you right up front, is not a typical message. If it could be called a State of the Union address, that's what it would be called, a State of NorthField address. If you're a guest with us today, I don't want to apologize. I want to say that I hope that what we're about to show you excites you and really let you know really about what your NorthField family is all about. And to some of you, as it's happened in first service and in second service today, you were going to say, I did not know they were doing all of that stuff. When you get ready to look at a year in review and to talk about everything that's happened and everything that's going to happen, is often you struggle to find enough stuff to fill 30 minutes. Let me tell you, we did not struggle. In fact, we have left probably 40 to 50% of what we do out today. There have been people with every service that have told me, oh, and we didn't get to mention this, or we didn't get to mention this. And I thought, you know, we could have if we had stayed till 2 o'clock, but some of y'all, you know, we got the Titans kickoff at 12. And let me just say, you're going to miss the kickoff, and it'll be okay. God's going to bless you, and he may even bless them if you miss it for his glory. And but we'll get you there by the end of the first quarter. Is that a deal? That hopefully you can get out and you will see that. You know, it was just 2 years ago that we launched what we called our Greater campaign. We took that word greater from really a prayer of Habakkuk. He was one of those Old Testament prophets who, like the other prophets, he was prophesying of a coming kingdom. There was something coming. There was something on the horizon. There was this, not only a kingdom, but there was going to be a Messiah who was going to usher all of this stuff in. And it was really what Jesus prayed about when he taught the disciples how to pray, that we would be a kingdom of people who would bring the kingdom of heaven to earth. And that's really what Habakkuk is out there doing. He's remembering all the things that God has done. Well, in chapter 3, verse 2, Habakkuk actually gives a prayer to people who are longing, to people who are waiting. And he's a lot like, he's in this in-between time, wondering about what God is going to do, but still looking back and reflecting on what God has done in his past. And his prayer, recorded for us in verse 2 of chapter 3, is this. He says, Lord, I have heard the news about you. And when I read that, I had to stop right there. What does that tell you when you say, Lord, I've heard the news about you? It assumes something. What does it assume? Somebody's telling it. You are exactly right, Mr. Casper. If somebody's hearing, then somebody's telling. And one of the things I love about being a part of this church family and that I celebrate is no matter where I go, if I've got that little N, that NF on the back of my car, or whether I've got a NorthField t-shirt on, even if it's at a gas pump, one day coming out of a bathroom in one of the gas stations in town, somebody will stop and say, I have heard about this that you did. I've heard about this that you have done. It's hard to go anywhere anymore that your influence and the things that you have done in the community. And I want to say, and at the outset, as you hear this, it's really what God has done. We just happen to be the people that he used to do it. And I think God works when we say yes to his plan. We'll talk about that in a minute. But he says, I am amazed at what you have done. And in my mind, I try to picture when they're writing these words, I'm wondering if Habakkuk is looking back on his life. And he's looking back at all the things that God has done in his life, and he recalls not just what God has done in his life, but the faithfulness of God over the entire history of the nation of people in Israel. Maybe he goes back to what Ryan talked about in communion this morning, to the days of Abraham and Sarah, and how God had called Abraham to leave the home that he had grown up in, to leave the area of the country he was, and to go to a different place. But he said, Abraham, I'm not going to tell you where I want you to go. But what you find that happened is that God revealed as Abraham took steps of faith. And I've often found that to be true. We say it at every starting point. If you want God to work in big ways in your life, you've got to act in big faith. I know a lot of people who want God to work in their life, but they're not, helping him out any. They're not giving him a lot of wood to work with there. One of the things that Abraham did, Abraham said, I'm going to act in big faith, and he expected God to act in big ways, and he did. Or maybe as Habakkuk is writing these words, he's reflecting back on the days of Joseph. They're a little bit different with Joseph, because if you know Joseph's story, as a young man, he finds himself in the land of Egypt, but he's not an Egyptian. He is an Israelite. He's been sold there by his brothers. And if you looked at Joseph's entire, 13, 12 years between being sold as a slave and rising to power in Egypt, there were times there that you discover something about Joseph. He trusted God even when from the outside it would look like God was not answering Joseph's prayers. But what you find out is that God doesn't often work on our timetable, does he? God works on a timetable all his own, and at the end of Joseph's life, when you get there, you find out that God actually used Joseph to save the entire nation of Israel from a famine. And all of these things going on. Maybe he recalls the days of Moses when he's thinking about that. And he thinks back to this leader that God had used to lead 2 million people out of the land of Egypt. And as they're coming out of Egypt, they're going towards this promised land that they've heard about, and where they want to have a land that's flowing with milk and honey that God is going to give them one day. But they're standing at the edge of the Red Sea, and they've got the Red Sea in front of them. They've got the mountains behind them, and all of a sudden they realize that Pharaoh has changed his mind. And he is coming after them. What are they going to do? And then you've got one man who goes back and begins to lead a nation of people in prayer. And he looks, and I love the words to that song, Graves in the Garden. And when they thought they were trapped, when they thought there was no way out, God turned the sea into a highway. And all of a sudden they walked through to freedom. It was a story that the Israelite people would have told their sons and their daughters year after year after year. Every year at Passover, they would have told that story to the people that were in their lives. And as I read Habakkuk's words, Lord, I'm amazed at what you have done, I started thinking about all the things that you have done with God through the last year. It wasn't that long ago that we were just 100 people, meeting in a school cafeteria 2 years ago, when we were planning and wondering how God would use a part of the building that we now know is the Summer Center that had really been neglected for the last 15 to 20 years, how in the world we could convert that to a space that would be used for our community. Well, you guys gave to that. In November of last year, we had the grand opening of the Summer Center. Can you believe it has been a year now? That happened in November. Here's a picture of kind of what it looked like, not kind of what it looked like. It is exactly what it looked like on that day because it was taken then. Paige Brown, our mayor in Gallatin, was one of the ribbon cutters to celebrate the grand opening of that day. And then a picture that you will see out in the mall area between the I'm in station between the two desks out there, Amanda Seitz, and I think I saw Jimmy and Amanda coming in at this service. Right over here in the middle, Amanda painted that. She is a pretty famous artist in her own right, and the picture doesn't do it justice because you'll have to go out there and see it. But I love as she stood back and she said, "Tom, I was trying to get a grasp over what God wanted me to paint of the day," and she said, "I could see the cloud." She made it into a dove. Do you see the Spirit? It was like the Spirit of God. She said, "I could just feel it everywhere." And then I love the balloons, and I had to ask, "What are the balloons?" Well, she said, what came to my mind as I thought about this was how that we were trusting that God, and here He's kind of standing watching over what we're doing, that we were going to lift people out of where they were. And the balloons are just symbolic of people in our lives that we are being able to lift through the help of things that were coming through the Sumner Center. And one thing you may have to ask, Josh Woodleaf, how many of y'all know Josh Woodleaf? Yeah, well, he says that's him right there. I don't know if it is, but go out there and look at that picture and let him know whether you think whether that's him or not floating up on those balloons there. But hey, just in the past year through the Sumner Center, just one area I want to talk to you about for just a second. Between hosting Gigi's Playhouse on Tuesday nights, that is a program for people who have Down syndrome, through a weekly partnership with the Special Needs Sports Foundation, where we host what's called bingo for people who have special needs in our gymnasium every Thursday night. We just held our first of what is going to be a monthly community-driven event for people who have special needs. Our first one that happened in December, over 300 people showed up the very first night for that. It was absolutely an incredible evening. The Special Olympics use our gym, and just last year in the special needs community, when we started adding up all of the people that had been helped or that hopefully that area had made an impact in their lives, there were over 3,000 people when you take the person who has special needs and you add their family and their caregivers through that, especially when you pump in Night to Shine in there, over 3,000 people that you guys directly impacted from that one community alone. And while I love Sundays, I don't know how many of you know this, if you were in that initial group of people who kind of stepped out in faith like Abraham and gave to get into this building here, we actually prayed a prayer on that Sunday. And we said, God, if we do not use this building for more than worship services on Sunday, would you please prohibit us from getting it? We did not want a building that was going to be shut 5 days a week and only open on Sunday mornings. So I think that because of you and your influence and because of a staff that has kind of held true to that prayer request and that promise that we made to God, there are so many things that go on out of this building through the week that I just want to tell you a few of those this morning and let you see them. I don't know, but if you know, but because of our work with Appalachian Service Project and getting teenagers and all kinds of people familiar with power tools, and because so many of you are in the construction business, last year we took on 11 projects that were driven by over 160 volunteers. I'm just going to name a few of them. One of them was Skip Halcomb. I don't know if you remember when we first talked about him. Skip came to us. He was at one of our Moy dinners. He is a Vietnam veteran, and we found out something about Skip. We found out that the house that he lived in had a 6-foot drop going out the back door. This is kind of what it looked like. It was a big step. It's a giant step for mankind, if you take that leap off the back door. But he needed a way to get out, and there were some of the roofing things that needed some help with. Well, in came some of you guys, and especially, I love the fact that the teenagers, look at this next picture. Here's a group of people who worked. A lot of these people, you see Greg right there in the middle of all of them, but all of these people surrounding him, outside of Bill, who's a little bit older than the teenagers as well. They're kids who went on the Appalachian Service Project that showed up right here in our own community to help Skip out. And they built this ramp that you're going to see in the next picture, there's a going up and a going down. Plus, through the help of Les Williams and their roofing company, helped repair the roof on their house. It was an incredible project. And then one of the other projects we did was a lady named Linda Carney. Linda up there, she is sitting beside Reagan Willingham, who was also one of the teenagers who went on the Appalachian Service Project. She came to us actually through one of our food box days where we had a prayer line. She had received a food box, but she wanted prayer as well. And she goes over, she gets in the prayer line, and she tells one of the people who were praying with her that she can't get out her front door, that her steps are dilapidated, that there's no way, and she doesn't have the means, and her health is declining. So from that simple prayer request, where she didn't really ask us for anything, she just asked us to pray about it. Well, a group of people decided to show up. Those are some of the people that showed up. They were sitting on those steps. They cleared out, and those steps they actually made from a tree, a cedar tree that had fallen over in her yard. So they cleaned up the cedar tree and then used the lumber to make the steps, and then they stained it. And I thought, wow, those are looking pretty good, aren't they? I thought, Lynn, we might have to invite them over to our house to do some staining of some steps in there. They looked absolutely fabulous. I didn't have a picture of Megan Allen's house. You might know Megan. She lives with Walt and Linda Allen. Walt has passed away now, but Linda's there. In fact, Megan is right over here. Can you wave there, Megan? It's good to see you today. Well, as you can see, Megan mentally all there, but her body just, it's been trapped in a body. And one day, I can't wait till we're in heaven together and I see you when you're free from that body, Megan. But she needed a way to get into her house, had to move out because she couldn't get in and out and around her house. And a group of you went up and you made a ramp and you made a way not only in and out of the house, but you made a way to a storm shelter there for her. Several other projects that I wanted to mention. One in particular, this lady right here, her name is Patty. Patty came to us because some firemen actually went to her house. Some firemen who had heard about these projects that we were doing. They got called to Patty's house, and when they got there, they realized that Patty was a quadriplegic. An accident had left her without the use of her limbs 3 years ago, and that she had rented, because money was tight, and she had rented a room in her house to another quadriplegic who was struggling as well. But when they were called to her home, they realized, here's a picture of her home, that's what she was trying to get up and down in a wheelchair on the outside. And so without somebody to help her, she couldn't get in her house, and without somebody to help her, she couldn't get out of her house. The firemen said, we got to do something. Well, because of your influence in the community, they called the Sumner Center. They got a hold of Bill, and some people came. I think the next picture, they started working on there. There's Jeff Rydell and Bill and Sean, and I think Frank is in there. I saw Frank sitting over there. And then it's not complete yet, but here's what it looks like as of, I think, this past Friday, her house there. And Patty actually texted me something that she wanted me to read to you today. Here's her text. Hello, I'm Patty Reese. And I want to say to the people at NorthField Church how thankful I am for you. 3 years ago, I had a terrible accident that left me as a quadriplegic. A fireman noticed that I did not have a ramp to my front door, limiting my mobility. He reached out to Bill Jacoby and to Jeff, and through this interaction, I am now getting a ramp to my front door thanks to your church. I've needed this for a while, but I just didn't have the means to get it done. Because of you, this blessing is coming to life, and it's a reminder to me that there are people in our community who love God and are willing to show acts of kindness. I am humbled, I am grateful, and I am thankful to each of you. My ramp is far beyond par. I will do my best that I can to pay this act of kindness forward. May God bless each of you. Thank you, Patty. What a wonderful note just from somebody here in our community. Just in the last year alone, you have given to those 11 projects over 5,000 man-hours in work. And I just want to say thank you. Many of you know that we have 2 different food programs here that we have, we started just because we said yes, and then as time went along, we had to try to figure out a way to perfect these things that we have started. But our food box program is really, it goes out once a month, over 250 boxes a month, and those food boxes are primarily for people that I would say they have food insecurities. That most of them have a home to live in, they have a stove to cook it on, they have a car that maybe they can get to and from where we deliver the boxes. Not all of them, but most of them. And in that program, they're having to make decisions to whether I can buy food this month or whether I buy medicine this month. They're having to make decisions on whether I can get gas in my car or whether I can get food in my stomach or feed my kids. What do I do about school clothing, clothing for schools? And all of those things go together. And we thought, what if we could alleviate one of those needs away from them where they would not have to worry about that? So we do a food box program. Last year alone, to that segment of our population in Sumner County, you guys made 3,085 food boxes, over 138,000 pounds of food, and to date have given out over 300,000 individual meals to people in Sumner County. Again, just incredible. The other food program that is the second food program, and it is a weekly program. The reason it's a weekly program is because it's designed for people who live in tents. It's for people who live maybe behind the Kroger or under a bridge. They're living in a hotel room or they're living in their car. Many of them who come on Wednesdays come up in a wheelchair to get what they're needed. I see Missy Carter sitting right over here. I know she's one of the ladies that works in that every single week. And this program gives food bags away that weigh less than the boxes. And they do it weekly because it's hard for them to carry a month's worth of food away at a time. So it's weekly. And in those food bags, they consist of items that are ready to serve. And by that, I mean the items don't have to be heated, they don't have to be refrigerated, and you don't need a can opener to get into them. That you could just walk away from there having something to eat without having to find a stove to cook it on or a refrigerator to keep it cool in. Last year, you gave 1,553 of those bags away, 23,200 pounds of food. And then in October, a group of them that were going just kind of said, you know what, these people don't really ever get hot meals. What if we started bringing hot meals on Wednesday as well? In the last 2 months, you have made 365 hot meals that you have given out to people who come on those Wednesdays. Again, yes. How many of y'all remember the free gas day that we had? Wasn't that I don't know what I call it, a hoot, a riot? You gave out 4,000 gallons of gas in one day. So much gas that we caused a traffic jam on Long Hollow Pike that started in Gallatin and went a mile down Long Hollow Pike. People had no idea what they were in line for, but they were just lining up to do it, whatever it was. But the police got called that day. They came out, and we were trying to figure out how to work that and go through a subdivision where the line wouldn't be that long. Well, one of the officers started walking down the road with me, and we were able to get the cars that were in the gas line kind of on the side of Long Hollow Pike, and through the wonderful police department of Gallatin, we were able to kind of have a lane where if you weren't going to get gas, you could keep going, but if you were in the gas lane over here. Several people ran out of gas in the gas line. That was a challenge to kind of keep up with there. We found out through those gas days that there were some other needs that we could meet, like with our food room and with the legal help and some things there. But what impressed me, besides just the wonderful generosity that you guys gave and showed up for that event, is that as we were walking down, I realized the policeman that was with me, we actually walked 1 mile down Long Hollow Pike. We were talking to every single car. Some of you remember that day because you were bringing donuts to those cars that were sitting in line there, just talking to the people. And I realized that police officer knew almost everybody. He was going, well, hey, Miss Bailey, how are you doing? Well, hey, Mr. Brown, how are you doing? How are your kids back there? We got, I don't know, a little bit down the road, and he got very emotional. And he turned and he said, these are my people. He goes, I don't know whether you know that, but I got called here because this is the neighborhood that I work in. And he goes, you could not have picked a better neighborhood to do something like that in. These people, every day when they get up, a lot of them have to figure out how they're going to get gas to get to work, or how they're going to pay the next bill, or how they're going to get a prescription, or how they're going to get food. And this is such a blessing to them. Again, just the word out in the community of how you're letting God use you and what you are doing for him. He ended up at the end, he said, I don't care if the traffic jam never goes away. He said, I love it. And it was fun playing out in the middle of Long Hollow Pike with him as well, I have to tell you. Then I don't know whether, you probably remember you purchased and gave 296 bags for Agape to the Nations, Christmas in July, that John Harris, one of our bass players, along with Charlie and Kinsley Smith, and I think Haley was able to go down there for one of the meetings that they had. It's where we're going to do a night to shine in just a little bit as well, but you gave Christmas to them in July. Over 100 orphans that many of you sponsor every single, where they get meals in Chad, Africa each week. Then thousands of people who get clean drinking water. I was going back through my emails at just the number of wells that Lee Hodges, who's the president of Hope Springs, had sent me this year. You were able to do this well, and he gave us the coordinates of all the wells, and you can go on and you can click the little coordinate. I need to put that out on Facebook so you can go do it, and you can see the wells that you have helped build in these nations. And then, I don't know if you remember, but they had a trailer with over 900,000 meals that were going to Africa as well, and just the number of people that gave to help get those meals to Niger. Over 300 kids you adopted at Christmas this year. Many of their presents are in the room right there. And then the Night to Shine that you're not only doing here in February, which is a huge event, but 7 to 8 of you have already got tickets and you're going to the Dominican Republic to do that there as well. Or the $10,000 we sent to Haiti to build a community center where people can learn life skills but also have lessons and teachings about Jesus Christ. Or the $10,000 you gave to Dan and Meg just 2 weeks ago to help the Druze people in Israel. There's not even room to put in there. Last year, we spent $31,000 in dental care and dental supplies on different people. Those are not even in there. And then Jeff Rydell led over fall break. I'm not sure whether you know this. He led a team of 10 people every day to the the homes that were flooded in Waverly. They are still going back. Jeff is leading teams because when they get a home about ready for insulation or for painting, he'll call and he'll get a team together, and they're still taking teams down there. Through a partnership with Habitat for Humanity, we helped the Dub family, and that's all of you NorthField people there who helped to go out and work on that project. That was one of the days that happened. And then that doesn't include the fully sponsored house that we did that's going to be built in June of 2023 there. And then 56 of our teens and many of you adults who are in the construction industry took off this past summer, and you went to Harlan, Kentucky to work with Appalachian Service Project. And I've got a picture of one of the houses that you are working on. Here, this is a scary thing that I'm about to tell you. These are our teenagers on top of houses. That if that won't make you pray, nothing will. And my prayer is that they come down this way, and as opposed to other ways they could come down. But it just reminds me what you guys make possible. But here's the deal. Behind each one of those houses, behind each one of those programs, behind each one of those dental chairs is a person who is made in the image of God. We started adding up in our office just a while ago, trying to figure out about how many people have we touched in 2022. I had to stop in November because things were still going on. But up through that date in 2022, there are over 100,000 people in our world who have been touched by things that you did directly out of this building. And I would like to give you and the God in heaven above a round of applause on that. Every dollar you gave and every ounce of time that you put into those made a difference. So when I read Habakkuk's words and he says, Lord, I've heard the news about you. I am amazed at what you have done. I feel the very same way too. But Habakkuk knows something when he's talking. He knows that you only have yesterdays that look like that if you have tomorrows that are planned like that. Because each of our tomorrows make up what's going to happen when we look back at our history and we say, well, what did that look like for that church? What did that look like for that family? What did that look like? Well, all of that picture is painted by how we plan our tomorrows, which is, I think, is what led Habakkuk to finish this prayer with these words. Let's say it together. Lord, do great things once again in our time. Make those things happen in our own days. And when I read that, that has become our prayer over the last few years as we started in 2020 with a 2020 to 2030 vision about what we wanted to do, that God would not only do great things in the past, but he would do great things going forward. You may remember last year that we fully funded through a wonderful grant from the Susan G. Noakes Foundation, and then you guys matched and even exceeded that for last year. A playground, where is the playground? Does anybody know where the playground is? It is in the supply chain issue. That is where the playground is. If you've heard of that terminology, we actually signed a contract in May with a company called Miracle of Kentucky and Tennessee. They have quite a few projects going on around the area, but all of that equipment has to get here from different places. We got in the lineup with them. We are actually slated for April of 2023 to have that playground off the ground and running. It is not only a playground for us, it is a playground for our community. It is an all-inclusive playground that I think is just going to be a place to bring our community together. When you think that last year that we served over 3,000 people and families who have people in them who have special needs, I can't imagine what that playground will mean for all of those families as well, plus all of our, kids and the people who come here because of that. What I want to show you is Miracle's rendition of what that playground is going to look like. You may know the company Miracle because they're actually the ones that designed and built Miracle Park in Gallatin, so that kind of gives you an idea of their work. But I will narrate it. They did not narrate the video, but I'll kind of tell you a little bit about it as we go through it. It's going to say Miracle in a minute.
Miracle.
There it goes. The whole playground is about 15,000 square feet, and that will include the bathroom areas that will be built beside it so that people can access restrooms and water fountains. You'll notice the shaded areas in there. There are over 4,500 square foot of shaded areas in the playground. Some of the equipment, this is the toddler area that's going to be built, or maybe I should say preschool area that's in there. It's got a place for parents to sit, to have small groups, to just have meetings with while their children play over here. Also benches scattered around in that play area, and that's kind of keep the little ones a little bit safer from maybe some of the bigger equipment that's out there. You'll notice swings that are accessible for people of all abilities. The ramps over here and the slides were it's handicap accessible as well. This is a 25-foot tower slide that goes up completely wheelchair accessible in there as well. You'll notice sensory areas as we go through here. There's also a musical station in there where people can do their thing on the drums or the pipes, and this merry-go-round. And there's also one more. This one right here is capable of holding 2 wheelchairs at one time, plus other children, so that people can play together. One of the things about this toddler area here, that while the video was going, how many of you remember Samuel's ark, the big ark that was on the playground back there? Well, that ark was built and given quite a while ago in memory of Samuel, who is Sandy and Gary Sagasser's son, who passed away. I think he was around 3 years old. We were not able to keep that piece of equipment and put on this playground because of the differences in construction and material, and so we looked for something to do with that. And I'm happy to tell you that we donated that to Grace Place here in Hendersonville. It's an organization that helps single moms and their kids, so they're getting a lot of enjoyment after that. But we had to have a Samuel's Ark on the playground as well. So what we did was call Miracle, and we asked them, can you make us an ark? We sent them pictures of the ark that was there. So they have manufactured an ark. We don't have everything about it yet, so it's not in the video, but it will go in that toddler area as well, and it's called Samuel's Ark on there, because we just believe in preserving that piece of the past, and it just means something to our community. And I think it's going to be a wonderful time when it's built, and that is coming up in just a little bit. It is set to open in the June when school is out, so y'all be praying about that. I think it's exciting. When we first presented the greater vision to you, we knew that we were going to have to do it in our phases. Our first phases were our community. We said when we started NorthField Church that we were going to be a church that was about our community. We not only wanted to preach the gospel, and we do that, and that runs through the fabric of everything that we do, but to preach the gospel and not lift people up out of the situation they're in just seemed like half of an equation to us. So we said the first things that we're going to do are for our community. That's why the first $2.5 million that you guys gave went to things that directly go on the outside of this building. But we have learned that as we have grown, that especially at our 9:30 service, and sometimes at this service, we run out of space in our children's area, and we have some goals with this building that we have here as well. We would like to build a new preschool area. The preschool area that we can't have a preschool that's open 5 days a week. We have a STEM program that we would like to come into that through Pathways Learning Center, but they can't come in because it doesn't meet the codes for an everyday daycare. It does for a church assembly, but not for a daycare. So one of the things that we wanted to do was have a STEM curriculum in here. So we've had a company that's given us some bids on what that would take to get in to our space, but actually they think over here, we're not for sure, but they think that area would be right on this side of the building. It has to have access to the outside from all of the rooms, so that would kind of make a way for it. And then they would expand the lobby area going across through here and connect it to the building next door. So, those things would be good. We thought about whether we needed to increase here. We would love to have an auditorium that seats 1,200 people and go to 2 services. But we realized that if we had an auditorium that seated 1,200 people and we filled the auditorium up, we would have no space for their kids, because at 9:30 with 700 seats in here, we're already out of room for our kids. So that kind of, God was telling us, we got to do the kids area first. We got to get it taken care of. So that's why that's on the agenda to do. But as we go through that, they gave us some plans, just some initial drawings, kind of what it might look like on the outside. This is a picture if you're looking from the Hendersonville side coming down. The preschool entrance would be on the front, right over there in that corner. You can even see where we're in now, kind of up behind it. This would be new construction coming out. This lobby space would be expanded across the front and would adjoin to the building next door, kind of back behind there, not in the front. If we go to the next picture, you can see it from the Gallatin side looking up. A big clock tower would be the centerpiece of the building here. This is where the preschool currently is. And you may wonder, well, what will we do with that building? Well, that building then would become Land of a Thousand Hills Coffee Shop. We don't know whether that's the company we would use, but that's the equipment that we're using right now, so that's the wording that we put on the outside. And it would be open 7 days a week. One of the advantages of that is, as we go through the Sumner Center and people come in and they're struggling because they don't have jobs, they don't have a place to work, that we could even employ them in the coffee shop and kind of help them out a little bit longer as we train them to maybe even be able to go out into the world and get a better job through that. But to provide a place for Ball State students to come all during the week, to provide a place for high school students to come throughout the week, and just to have a place to hang out. That's kind of the dream for that area, with balconies and things out there. These would become the main entrances that would lead into not only that part, but this part as well. If you came in from this side of the parking lot and you come up the building, you will pass what we affectionately call Ugly Alley. Have y'all ever seen Ugly Alley? This is Ugly Alley. How many of y'all have seen that on the way in or on the way out? If you haven't seen it, as you're leaving, now you'll notice it all the time now, but anyway, as you're leaving the building, look to your left as you're going down. You will see this. We thought, what in the world could we do with that? Well, they kind of came up with a plan for that, and this is what they came up with. As they hooked the 2 buildings together, what if they kept that as like a little alley that you might see in, some country around the world where they've got limited space, or maybe even in New York or somewhere, and putting cafes and lights above it. Anyway, they gave us a few renditions of what the lobby space could look like. These are not exact, but these are ideas that they have given us. Something like this, where we could have tables and things set up where you could learn about different ministries. You would have different seating space. I've got another picture of one here that would show the actual entrances into the auditorium once that is finished at some point in the future. And then I think the next slide that we've got here is a picture of what the auditorium could look like. Now that is bigger, that is more than 1,200 seats, but that's the idea. If you can see, they would have some seats that are raised towards the back, but then they would have floor seating down here, and it would push out this way a little bit. We had to make sure that we kept enough floor space to do what? Night to shine. Whoever said that loud, that is, yes, that is Sarah Hollis out there. We thought we can't do anything that would mess that up. So we said, this is how much space we need for Night to Shine to happen. And also the dinners that we've done this last year, where we hosted the governor at one of those, and we hosted the mayor where she gave her State of the Gallatin address in our auditorium here. So all of those things, I think, would come into play in each of those. We've got the pictures of what the kids, the preschool area could look like. That's one of the pictures there, kind of a large group coming in area, and then what a hallway would look like as well. All of those things, I hope they're exciting too. I hope they're kind of inspirational, that you see that we're not only thinking about what we've done in the past, but where is God calling us for the future. You've been planning and we've been saving, and we'll tell you about that in just a minute. But all that leads us to what happened yesterday on our campus with the dental day. I told the other services, as Stephanie is coming up, and I think Elon's going to bring us some stools out. We're going to talk to Stephanie. We are going to go about 10 minutes over today. I hope that you can stay. If you have to leave, God will forgive you, because I'll ask him. But again, we may not make it for the kickoff, but we are going to make it for the end of the first quarter if you go by Taco Bell and order something very quickly. Anyway, the dental day that happened on our campus, for those of you that don't know, we got a complete dental center downstairs that was made possible in large part because of Stephanie here, who is a dentist in our area, and she donated her office when she moved into a new office, and then Philip Kemp came along and donated some chairs. We've had a big piece of x-ray equipment that has been donated by individuals and companies. And then yesterday, you guys, I'm not sure how much work that you did, but we wanted to read you something that Angela Anderson from the Chamber in Gallatin wrote us. She said, "Hey, NorthField Church, I just left the dental day. We're going to feature it in our city guide this year. Just wanted you to know that this is the second time I have popped into one of NorthField's programs, and I have been so moved. You made me cry before 8 a.m. Thanks for all that you guys do. It's amazing to know that we have places in our community that are committed to not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. Gallatin and Sumner County are lucky to have you guys. Just wanted to let you know how amazing today really is." Stephanie, before we talk about where we're going with the dental center in 2023, one of your co-workers are out there. We saw Karen a while ago. Let me set up something that's going to happen. And Tori is sitting beside Karen over there. Hey, Tori. Tori is one of our special friends that we just get to love on every single week. Well, this is a picture that hangs in the lobby. This picture is last year's dental event where Tori is in the chair, and Karen, who works in Stephanie's office, was actually taking care and cleaning her teeth. Well, Karen didn't know till she came in yesterday that her picture was kind of blown up larger than life out there. And as she comes in, Karen is like, "Oh no, this will not do. You cannot." She's kind of like my wife is a little bit in pictures. "Don't put me up on the wall. Don't put me on the screen. I don't want to be in front." And so Karen was kind of saying that throughout the day. That's got to come down. That's got to come down. That's got to come down. But then something happened that changed Karen's perspective on that when Tori came in to get her teeth cleaned, and she saw Karen there, and they just rekindled something. Tori remembered her. They had this moment together, and then going home last night, Karen kind of had some second thoughts about her picture being on the wall, and she sent you a message, didn't she? I'll put it over here where you can see it. Oh, yes.
I got to have my notes here.
Yeah, there's what she wrote.
Well, Karen was, not physically texting me, but sending me an audio message. And as I was listening to it going home, it made me smile in my heart. Because, not just Karen, I probably would have felt the same way if my picture was blown up huge on the wall. You know, us ladies, we can be a little self-conscious, and she had mentioned that to me a few times throughout the day. But then she texted me last night and said, "Okay, I'm not going to fuss anymore about my picture being on the wall. I'm actually very honored to be in that picture because of what happened this afternoon. The little girl in the picture came into my room, and she was just so excited and so precious. And then Karen starts to cry, and then I start to cry. And we were going to play the audio for you guys, but we were afraid you wouldn't be able to understand it for all the crying that was happening. But she was talking about how precious Tori is, and so they took a picture in front of their picture and told Tori what a rock star she is. And when she got done, she said she was so happy, and she said, "I feel happy in my teeth." And called her mom in from the chair to show her how pretty her teeth were, and told Karen how other people had called her gross and thought her teeth were too dirty, and that having her teeth whitened up that day, just how special it made her feel. And it made Karen kind of look at that from a different perspective and feel like maybe I was a little bit shallow for being concerned about having my picture up there on the wall, and I wasn't seeing what God was doing right in front of my own eyes. And so I thought, that kind of struck a chord for me too. So I just thought I'd share that with you.
Oh, there was a special moment. And thank you, Karen, for being here with us today. And Tori, yes, thank you. Your teeth are shining from right here. Yes. So for all of you who donated time and who did so much yesterday, Melissa and her fabulous team of videographers kind of recorded the day for us, and here's a video of what happened yesterday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for what y'all doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for helping and pulling my tooth.
Hi, my name is Tamisha Walker, and I am very blessed to be here today to get my teeth cleaned. And I'm very blessed, and these are very nice and helpful people. Thank y'all.
I really appreciate this opportunity that you all are giving us it, because I don't have insurance, so it's very hard getting my teeth checked. I'm just grateful. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I normally go by Giggles, so today means a lot to me, mostly for my mom. She hasn't had insurance for some years, and she about cried when I told her about this event, so it's definitely life-changing for her. And for me, as somebody who's aging out of my insurance, it's hard for me to find a dentist who did accept my insurance, and now being able to get services I probably haven't had in 4 or 5 years means a lot. It really does. So, thank you guys.
Thank you so much for volunteering. And I thank God that, He has blessed us with the free dental today and the children today. And thank you. Amen.
I'm sitting here getting ready to have an extraction done for the first time on my mouth. And thanks to the good people of this church.
Thank you so much. I've been praying for this because I need some help with my mouth. So I thank them very much. Thank you. I appreciate this. It's a blessing.
Thank you so very much for having this opportunity to come out and have services.
Thank you, NorthField Church, and all the dentists, dental assistants, volunteers, everyone that is here today. This has been a blessing for me and my family. My dad is actually here getting tooth extractions today. That would not be possible without you. We really appreciate this and all the hard work everybody is putting in. Thank you so much.
Thank you for extracting my teeth because it hurts really bad. And God bless everyone for doing this for people that really need it.
I just want to thank all the people here. They're doing a great thing for the community, and I'm here to get a tooth pulled. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully it'll go well.
Thank you so much to all of our volunteers who have come out today to make this such a success. We are overwhelmed by your generosity. So many patients from all over have come today. I mean, got up the crack of dawn and drove hours to be here today, which just goes to show how overwhelming the need is in our community for these kind of services. So I just, from the bottom of my heart, want to say thank you to everybody who took time out of their weekend on a Saturday to come down here and support our community.
So we had a wonderful lady here this morning. They were the first ones here. They came here from Portland. They were the first car here. And she had part of her leg had to be amputated, so she didn't really have any mobility. And to get up here, she needed to be in a scooter. So we accommodated her by bringing her up, and she had 3 extractions that were needed. She was just so joyful, and her family was with her. And just to not have that ability to have that taken care of and now to have it done, it just meant a lot to her.
Set the captive free. Move my feet to follow after you. Lord, change the world and let it start with me. Open up my eyes, fill my heart with your compassion. Free my mind from all distraction. Use my hand, set the captive free. Move my feet to follow after you. Lord, change the world and let it start with me. Let it start with me.
It's just an incredible day. And thank you and Mackenzie and Bill for all the work that you put in to make it happen. We wanted to let people know, just before we end, where the dental clinic is going. Many of you may not know, but Governor Lee, who actually visited with us and toured the clinic with Stephanie, couldn't think of your name there for a minute, Stephanie, toured the clinic with Stephanie and some of our staff. He actually put some money in the budget that would help clinics like ours get off the ground and be able to do some things. Now, we have to partner with them, and there's a partnership going on there. But one of the things that we learned very quickly was it's hard to have a clinic that's open during the week without continuity of care. So you can have volunteer dentists come in and out like you guys are doing, but you need that continuity of care. And Governor Lee set up something to establish what they're calling hubs and spokes throughout the state of Tennessee, and we have been chosen to be one of those hubs. And if you will, maybe, Stephanie, tell us what that means to us, going to a hub and what we have to do.
Well, as a hub, we're a clinic that exists, within the church, and we're open all the time, hopefully. But like Tom was saying, we need a dentist and some support staff that is here all the time that can provide that continuity of care. So when I come in or another volunteer dentist comes in, we have somebody who's kind of overseeing and organizing that for us, and the spokes would be like the outreach that happened yesterday, because we're gonna be able to provide some care at those events, obviously get people out of pain and do extractions, but that just barely scratches the surface of what the need actually is and where do they go from there. What's the next step? And the next step is to feed back into that hub of our clinic here that we can partner with organizations like Hope Springs and provide more comprehensive care for their whole mouth.
And I love that, because what Hope Smiles is going to do is they're actually going to hire a dentist, a hygienist, and a dental assistant that will go between the hubs in Tennessee, and they will help then organize the volunteer dentists that come in. So where you could help this morning on the way out, if you want to pick one of these up, if you are a dental professional and you can volunteer, whether it's a day a month, a half day a month, a day a quarter, we'll take anything that you've got out there. You can scan this QR code and you can find out more about it. Or if you have a dentist that you go to and you would like to ask them to volunteer, you can take it to your dentist. And Yeah, she has signed up for 6 days to get us already going. That taken away from her practicing, going over there to do that again. Just one of the ways that Stephanie helps give back in this community here. So many things going on. One of the things I think that sets this clinic apart from other clinics that may be happening in the state is when they come into the dental clinic at NorthField Church. As we saw yesterday, there were several families, but one in particular that came in late yesterday evening. 4 kids. I think the one that was the oldest was maybe 4 or 5 years old, down to a baby. No shoes. They needed extra diapers, and there were some ladies that went across to Kroger that brought some, got them all dressed and dolled up before their mom came back and got them. They got diapers for them. We were able to go downstairs in the food room and get food assistance for them. So our program will be different because if you need legal aid, do you need counseling? What are all the other ways that the Sumner Center can help you? That maybe it starts with dental care, but we're able to go in, maybe even help them find a job. Maybe it's through Gap or one of our partners in this area who we're trying to work with, or maybe it's in our own coffee shop that will one day be built over there where we can provide a more holistic approach to what families are going through. But Stephanie, thank you so much for helping bring all of this to life.
Thank you guys for help us.
Thank you. You know, we didn't even touch, and I know we got to go, we didn't even touch the Agape counseling that's coming, that's starting in January. Dr. Frank Scott is going to be with us. He was director of counseling at Lipscomb University. He's starting 1 day a week, and then as the needs progress here, he's going to go far and beyond that. So here's our big ask this Christmas. Every Christmas we've had a time that we ask for something, and we don't spend a lot of time asking for money because you guys are so gracious and you give, but it does cost a lot to do that. Here are some things that we'd like to do when you're asking for what we were looking for this year. The Sumner Center to fund the ongoing food distribution that's monthly, the homeless bags that go out weekly, the home repair projects that you saw, the supplies and things that have to be purchased, supplies for the dental clinic. Last year that was a little over $30,000 just for that. The full-time receptionist that we will have to hire for that dental office to work between that and Agape, and the cloud-based software program that it will take to use. All of those things we're thinking that we can fund next year with $225,000. We'll bring all of those things to life. And then you look at the other part, again, which is outreach into the world. The first part of these, we ask you as a church to tithe, and we want you to know we go far and beyond the 10% in what you give us, that we tithe as a church ourselves on what you give us. For global and local mission work, we would like to budget, we already give some money, but we would like to budget additional monies for Hope Springs in Africa, Chad, and Nigeria. Agape to the Nations, where we're doing a night to shine in the Dominican Republic, the house in Haiti, and then the work in Uganda. Team Expansion, that is serving the Druze people in Israel, and the Cumberland Crisis Pregnancy Center right here in our own community. We would like to put aside some extra money for that in the sum of $100,000. And then the parts of the building that you saw, we don't have those estimates. We don't have them yet on what that's going to cost. We're just kind of in that phase. We're expecting in 2023 to have all of that, but it is taking a while to get together. We know this. We know that when we do it, it's probably going to, that initial phase is going to hit right around that $8 million mark, somewhere right around there. I want you to know here's some good news. Because you guys are so generous, we already have $2 million sitting in the bank earning interest for that project when we started, and that is just a tremendous help already. We would like this Christmas season, whether it's given before the end of the year, that would be great, or whether next week we're going to have some cards if you want to just pick one up on the way out, if you want to make a pledge throughout 2023. We would like to raise an additional $750,000 so that by the time we get to the end of 2023 and we kick that off, we already have $3 million in the bank to start that. We think it is completely doable, and we're just trusting God for it. So that makes the whole campaign this year $1,075,000. Again, tithing on what we think God has called us to do as a church, and then looking at what we need in our own church family here that, again, we use to reach back out into the community. I hope today was inspirational for you. I'd like to leave you with two stories that have always impacted my life in trying to make decisions in what I do. There was a time when the disciples wanted Jesus to feed about 20,000 people. Y'all remember that? I think all four gospel writers mention that story. They're out there, and they come to Jesus, and they say, send these people away so that they can go get some bread to eat. Do you remember what Jesus looks back and says to his disciples? He says, you feed them. You feed them. It's funny that I think that what we need to make a difference in the world, it's already here. It's just maybe it hasn't been given yet. He looked and he expected them to do something with it. And we think that God has put enough in our pockets already that we can do this, that we can not only meet that goal, but we can exceed that goal. Then the other story is with Moses. When Moses doesn't think he can do it, because sometimes I look at stuff and I think, can we do this? Can we do it? And I feel a lot like Moses, and I'm having this debate with God. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And finally, God just looks at Moses and he says, Moses, what's in your hand? And what does Moses have in his hand? He's got a staff. And I can see Moses. What, you mean this? Well, all the shepherds have one. You know, it's just one of the staffs. And he has Moses throw it down. And then if you find out through the life of Moses, God used what was already in Moses' hand to do that. I want to thank you. I don't know whether you realize it, but you already use so much of what's in your hand, the talents and the gifts and the abilities that you give each week that come from your professions that you already do with whatever your hands find to do. You just do it with all your might. I thank you for working with us, and I thank you for trusting us with what could be a large gift for many of you to use it for the good of mankind, to make sure that what Jesus asked us to pray for, that we are about the mission of bringing the kingdom of God to earth. When he looked at his disciples, he said, you really want to know what to pray? This then is how you should pray. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on this earth just like it is in heaven. And that is our prayer, that we would use our time, our resources, and our energy to bring the kingdom of God to earth. Thank you for sticking with me a few minutes longer. I want to pray for you, and then I'll dismiss you. Father, thank you for giving us a vision of what can be and what could be. I thank you, Father, that as we look back over what you've done, that it is full of God events and God moments in our life. And I pray, Father, that we will be a people who continually put our tomorrows in your hand as well. And that as we get to the end of our road, whenever that is, that we look back and we think, you know what? I used what you gave me to bring the kingdom of God to earth. May it always be true in each of us. Would you bless us? Would you keep us? Would you make your face to shine upon us and bring us peace? In Jesus' name, the whole church said,